Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Average Joe Hockey Report. In this video, we're going to complete part 2, my 3 questions for each Canadian team. We only have the Eastern Conference teams left, so let's dive right into it, starting with the Ottawa Senators. First question for the Ottawa Senators. What direction are you going in? And it's a pretty good question because, other than trading away Jonas Corposalo in a package to get Linus Ullmark, I haven't necessarily been a fans of some of the acquisitions that they've made. I don't understand why they brought in David Perron. Michael Amadio is just good depth and whatnot, but I mean and then there's the Nick Jensen for Jacob Chicken trade. I don't get that one either. This is barely a salary dump. Nick Jensen barely makes less than Jacob Chikrin, and Jacob Chikrin badly outplayed Nick Jensen offensively and whatnot. To add to it, the drafting of Carter Yakimchuk, I'm not a fan of. I know he led the WHL with 30 goals, but when they drafted him, there were better defensemen available. Zane Parekh was available. Anton Siliev was available. Sam Dickinson was available. Zeev Bium was available. But they go out and they reach for Yakimchuk, which this is why, if you're a Senators fan, I can only imagine how frustrated you are considering here's a team that's been rebuilding for years and they want to be relevant and whatnot, and they keep making blunders like that, you know? So, yeah. Question number 2, can Josh Norris stay healthy? And it's a good question because considering Josh Norris, the most games he's ever played was 66 games in 2021-2022. And here's a guy, Josh Norris, who has a cap hit of $7.95 million. So, yeah, it's imperative that that he can stay healthy and perform well and whatnot. Considering he gets paid a lot, and to pay someone quite a bit of money to get injured all the time, no, not a good thing. And then question number 3, how's that defense gonna fare for Ottawa? And it's a good question. Like I just talked about the Jensen for Chikrin trade. To add to it, Nick Jensen is 33 years old, whereas Jacob Chikrin is 26 years old. So it's like, well, what are you doing there? And it seems like Jake Sanderson might be the only promising defenseman right now on Ottawa. Now it's too early to make a judgment on Jacob Bernard Docker. He's only 24. I don't know if he's had too many chances in the NHL and whatnot. And I think there is a chance that Jacob Bernard Docker, because after all he was drafted 26 overall by the team in 2018. But he's only played one full season in the NHL, and even then he had 14 points in those 72 games. But yeah, so yeah, the verdict is way too early on Bernard Docker. But yeah, the rest of the defense just does not look good, not look promising at all. All right, for next team, Toronto Maple Leafs. Question number 1, what are you doing with Mitch Marner? Are you re-signing him? Are you trading him? You got to make a decision there. It doesn't look like he's going to get traded away this offseason. So, I don't know. Do you make a pitch to re-sign him? Whatnot? I don't know. I think that would be the ideal move for the Leafs and whatnot, and then just keep being competitive and whatnot, especially with this season. And I'll go further in this video why. Because I do really think that the Leafs, if everything pans out for the Leafs, that they can make a playoff push. A playoff run, should I say. Question number 2. Can Joseph Woll and Chris Tanev stay healthy? And those are very imperative. It's very imperative that they do stay healthy. Here's why. Joseph Woll, when he's healthy, great goalie. There's a reason why he's the number 1 goalie in Toronto. Because even when he was healthy, he was outplaying Ilya Samsonov and sent Samsonov out to Vegas. And he was gonna finish that series against the Boston Bruins had he not get injured and whatnot. And Chris Tanev, a solid defenseman that Toronto's needed badly. Like I think You could even maybe put him and Morgan Riley together, or maybe like him and Timothy Liljegren together, or even him with Ekman Larson. I don't know. Anyways, it. I think Tanev can, most certainly complement a offensive defenseman. So, but it is very, and he had a good season in Dallas, but it is imperative that he stays healthy because the Leafs, they've been struggling with their defense depth for years now, and finally, one of the additions that they added was Chris Tanev, and he does provide depth as long as he's young. As long for now that is. The older he gets, I think that's where it gets worse. But right now, it's a good signing. And question number 3: which Oliver Ekman-Larsson are we getting? Are we getting Florida Oliver Ekman-Larsson that revived his career, or are we getting Vancouver Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who got bought out and had some of the worst on ice analytics in the NHL? Mind you, he was also paired with Tyler Myers, who I'm not the biggest fan of as well. But yeah, it's imperative that this is another defenseman that I feel is an upgrade over some of the other defensemen that the Leafs had. And if this is Florida Oliver Ekman-Larsson, this is exactly the kind of defenseman that the Leafs need and whatnot. All right. Last but not least, 3 questions for Montreal Canadiens. Question number 1: is the rebuild over? This is a team that's been rebuilding for a while now. Nick Suzuki just entered his prime with his 77-point season. I think he's going to be in his prime for many years, at least. And Cole Caulfield, I think there's possibly a possible breakout season for Caulfield occurs. That entire line could have their best season next season. Who knows, whatnot. But you look at the overall depth, and then the some of the contracts that they have, and some of the uncertainties on defense and whatnot. Is the rebuild over? I would like to see Montreal make a push, and maybe they barely make the playoff, may barely not make the playoffs. That's okay, but we'll see. There are some expiring contracts in David Savard, in Christian Dvorak, and I believe that. Oh yeah, and Yoel Armia, who had 17 goals last season. But we'll see. Eventually, the rebuild has to end. Question number 2: can Kirby Dach stay healthy? This is a guy that they're counting on to be the number 2 center. They traded a 7th overall pick to acquire him. And in the 2 seasons that he's played for the Montreal Canadiens, injured, out for a season both times. Yeah, so it is absolutely imperative that Kirby Dach stays healthy. Otherwise, this will be yet another long season, another case of the Montreal being a one-line team and whatnot. And question number 3: what moves will occur during the season? Whether it's a young up-and-coming player making the jump to Montreal, say like a Lane Hudson, Joshua Roy has already made that jump last season, and I think Joshua Roy should have a decent season. But yeah, can another prospect make the jump to the Montreal Canadiens, or can you trade away like David Savard, or maybe a Yoel Armia, maybe even Mike Matheson? So yeah, it'll be intriguing to see what moves will be made for Montreal and whatnot, whether it's young guys making the jump or a veteran traded away and whatnot. Yeah. This video is mostly based on opinion and may not have any implications on how these teams and players will do throughout the offseason, throughout this season. So remember, if I'm wrong, don't belittle me, educate me. Take care, everyone, and follow my Instagram account, The Average Joe Hockey Report, and my YouTube channel, Marty Tommy, in parentheses, Average Joe Hockey Report.